I mentioned before that everyone has a story. When you see numbers about the victim October 7th and lump them together, it's a grave mistake. Every victim has a family, had a vibrant life, and has a story to tell and to learn from. And we should take the time to learn from each victim, each of their stories, each of their families, their heroism, their bravery, all remarkable. Lahavdil, to change directions for a moment, the same is true so very much for every person in life. At times we judge a person not knowing the story. They make a mistake or a misstep. It's a background, something we don't know. Everybody has a story to tell. There are good parts of the story, bad parts of the story. Every person has a unique story. So I want to tell you a story. Over the last 12 months, I mentioned this several times in the last 2 weeks, but I'll say it again. The story of Am Yisrael. We've always been known to be givers. How do I know that? Because the Rambam, in a most amazing comment, tells us in the 10th chapter of Anataniim, unbelievable. If a person is asked to give tzedakah, to give charity, and they are achzari, they're resistant, they refuse to do so, the Rambam writes, Yesh lachush liachazo. We have to check their lineage. Are they really Jewish? Because the Jewish way is to give. Over the last 12 months, we, the collective, we have given in a way we could never have previously imagined. And I speak for all of us. If I asked any of us last year, how much would you give towards Medinat Yisrael, Chayalim, Sahal, Chesed causes, to mobilize clothing drives? You give me a number, 500, 1,000. And I can bet, I'm willing to bet, that every person in this room has given much, much more than they would have committed last year. By nature, we are all givers. It is truly amazing. It's the most incredible need of Am Yisrael. When someone's in need, we give. We always rise to the occasion. Over the last 12 months, at least in my lifetime, more than I could have imagined. We've become incredible givers. About 25 years ago, I was zocheh to be part of an incredible group of givers who spent their summers, 2 of my summers in Camp Hask, who gave to their campers Yomam V'Layla. And I kid you not, I'm zocheh to have a son, second generation, who did it, and I warned him. It's a 24-hour-a-day job. Camp Hask create people who are givers. I made a lot of friends, incredible friends. Friends for life. A co-counselor of mine, I think the same bunkhouse, same division, who was himself an incredible giver. A dedicated, amazing, selfless, kind, warm counselor. It was great to watch. Had a bunk of little boys. Sweet little boys. Little boy, amazing. Amazing. This young man was so amazing, great, generous with his campers. It was a pleasure to watch. Who would have known? Who would have known? This young man would become a great doctor, a chiropractor, have a bad back, but create one of the most incredible organizations I've ever seen. And I say that because not only am I a member of Daily Giving, I doubled actually last year. But to see what Dr. Jonathan Donath has created, is nothing short of inspirational. If we have become givers par excellence in the last 12 months, then he is a model, a role model of what it means to be a giver. He has mobilized thousands and thousands of people around the globe to give millions and millions of dollars a year to various charities. And in the last 12 months, has doubled and tripled and quadrupled his efforts to get people to become givers, daily givers, through dailygiving.com, to support Achenu B'nai Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael, to support our soldiers, our brothers and sisters on the front lines, in just a unique and incredible way. And all that said, one would think somebody who's achieved such a lofty level in life, who's a role model to thousands of people around the world, to be a proud, arrogant fellow. He's the most humble, sweet, and kind young man I've ever met. I'm proud to call him a role model, and even more proud to call him a friend. During our Seres Made Tshuva, and to mark today, October 7th, we thought it would be appropriate to speak about giving. How we have given, and how we can continue to give. The families who lost loved ones October 7th, the families who are broken in half because one party is serving on the front lines, to the many, many needs. Merubin Sarte Amcha. The needs are many. And so I want to thank Dr. Donath for being here tonight. Not just for being a role model to me and to many thousands around the world who are daily givers, or will be daily givers after tonight. For being a role model of what it means to be really a selfless giver to Achenu B'nai Yisrael, to be a Jewish hero, which he certainly is. Normally, when I introduce a dignitary or a rabbinic figure of stature, I usually lead in by saying, please rise with Chod HaTorah. Tonight, I'm going to ask the same, but I'm going to change a little bit of the language. Please rise with Chod HaTzedakah for this incredible hero of a man, Dr. Donath. Please rise. I get to hear some words of inspiration from my dear friend, Dr. Jonathan Donath.
Thank you, Rabbi Galler. It's really an honor to be here. That was quite the introduction. I wish my wife was here to hear that. Rabbi Galler, stole what I was going to say is that, in 1999 and 2000, we were counselors then. Those very formative years at Camp Hask. It was amazing. We were bunkmates, and it's a very special place, Camp Hask, and you have that experience together, giving together to the special kids for 7 weeks. It really does form bonds, and it's really it's a zchus to know him, and I'm jealous of all you that you get to call him your Rav. So definitely, it's really special. I woke up this morning to the usual many WhatsApp messages on Yeshiva World News and Jewish Breaking News, and I was heartbroken because I saw something that just shocked me. And unfortunately, we're probably all too used to this, but the message said that Idan Shtivi, who had been assumed to be hostage since October 7th, was now, as of today, 365 days later, they said that they have enough evidence to tell his family that he died on October 7th. And his body is still in Gaza. It was taken. And the reason that shook me to my core is because I had the privilege in March to spend Shabbos with 36 of the hostages' families. And it was Idan's family that I sat with at both meals on Shabbos. And I'm in touch with till today. And I've been davening for him 3 times a day since March. So to find that out this morning and to be able to really feel October 7th in a way that I didn't even expect. So I'll get to the Shabbos with the hostages' families in a moment and some stories from that. But I'd like to, in case there are those of you that don't know what daily giving is, I thought I'd give you a little quick background on what daily giving is and how I started it. I usually when I speak and an organization asks me to speak, I get like 2 minutes. So I'm used to like rushing through and feeling very low. So I'm actually going to tell you some backstory that I've never really told publicly, and that I had heard about this rabbi named Rabbi Alon Anava. I don't know if someone's seeing some nods. And Rabbi Alon Anava was a secular Jew, secular Israeli, and he likes to say that I wasn't just a secular Israeli, I would dafka eat cheeseburgers on Yom Kippur. And he had tattoos and piercings all over, and he overdosed on drugs and died. And I was told that there's this 2-hour video on YouTube of his experience of his basically death, and obviously he came back to life, of what he saw in his afterlife. And I was fascinated by it. And again, it's 2 hours. I don't have a lot of time, so it took me a few weeks to watch 10-minute pieces at a time. And I remember finishing it, and right before Marv in the parking lot, and I walked into my local Marv in White Plains, New York, and I put $1 in the second box, like we all do millions of times, or thousands of times in our lives, right? And I had this epiphany. The first time I ever feel like I ever had an epiphany in my life. It was so strong that no matter how much tzedakah I give, I still get a mitzvah for this $1. So how can I guarantee myself the mitzvah tzedakah every day? I'm going to go back to Rabbi Anava for a second. So Rabbi Anava tells me the story, and I have to say that I only watched this video one time, literally about 6 years ago, right before I started daily giving. And I never watched it since. I know this is the reason why I started the thing that changed my life more than anything. And last week, I don't know why, I decided, let me watch this again. And I watched the 2-hour video again. And I actually sent the video to Rabbi Galler this morning, because I urge you all to watch this video. It actually made my Rosh Hashanah davening so much better, and I think it'll really inspire you to have better Yom Kippur davening. And so you can ask Rabbi Galler for it, looking forward to. But here's the part that really, there were so many different things in it, but basically, at one point, he said I was in this black abyss. I was stuck there what felt like 1 billion years, he said. Like 1 billion years. He said, when you have pain, I'm a pain physician, so when you have pain, and you know there's a finite amount of pain, we can take a lot of pain. But when you have pain, and you have no idea when that pain is going to end, it's really miserable. And he said it felt like 1 billion years, screaming to God, screaming in pain, no one listening, nothing. And the message he got was, you don't even have one single mitzvah to elevate you to some other level. And so I had just finished listening to that, and I walked into like I said, the rest of the story, and I put the $1 in the stock box, and I had this thought. And I remember running home after Marv and checking, is there anyone who's automating daily tzedakah giving? And although any organization will take $30 a month, that's not the same thing. And so I called up my friends and my website guy, and I said, Shel, what do you think about this? And he said, it's an amazing idea. I said, can you build me a website? He said, yeah. And then I thought, if I could get Rabbi Pesach Krohn to talk about daily giving, the way he speaks about Torah anytime, I'm going to blow this thing up. And I called Rabbi Krohn. I remember my heart literally beating out of my chest as the voice of Torah anytime gets on the phone. I told him the idea, and he says, it's a great idea. And he says, no one's doing this. I said, Rebbe, no one's doing this. He says, okay, well, let's get together a rabbinical council so people know that the money's not going to your kids' college funds. I said, that's a good idea. So we did. To this day, it's the same rabbinical council. We have Hershel Schefter Shlita, and Rav Moshe Tu Leaf, and Rav Shmuel Greenberg, my Rabbi White Plains, and Rabbi Krohn. And they approve all the tzedakahs that are on there. And what we did is we automated a platform to try to get Jews all over the world to give $1, at least $1 tzedakah every single day together. And every day we give the entire amount of tzedakah to a different incredible Jewish organization. And we like to say it's a diversified portfolio of tzedakahs. We give to poverty and cancer and special needs and mental health and substance abuse and Torah and kiruv and life-saving and stem cells and transplants, and it's really quite incredible. And every day when you join, you get an email that says where the money's going, how much we're giving, a video about that organization, a link to donate more to the organization. And on Erev Rosh Hashanah, we broke $20,000 a day. We have over $20,000 a day from people from over 43, well, our last check was 43 countries. And we don't take a penny. 100 cents of your dollar goes to tzedakah. 91% give $1 a day, 9% give between $2 and $101 a day. People understand that it's hard to know where to go, and so we vet this stuff very carefully, so people trust us, so some have started to give more and more. And that's basically essentially what it is. It's amazing to be a part of something that the Achdus is my favorite part, that we have people from all over the world. I feel like what more could Hashem want than all of his children every day coming together to give tzedakah to our brothers and sisters who are less fortunate. So I was really, really fortunate to be invited to a Shabbaton. I happened to be in Israel. We had planned a trip for 3 years. It got delayed by COVID and then something else. It was like delayed 3 times, but we went to Israel in March with my best friends, my co-founders, and we were going to go to as many organizations as we could. And happened to be, while we were there, one of the organizations we give money to is called Kesher Yehudi. I don't know if you've heard of Kesher Yehudi. It's a really fantastic organization. And what they do is they take secular michinot. Michinot are like the gap year programs. Right before Israel, kids graduate high school and they go to michinot. So this is a completely secular michinot, co-ed, and I think they have 25 of them across the country. And what they do is they essentially set up a Haredi partner with a completely secular 18-year-old. And as I don't need to tell you, but in Israel, secular Israelis and Haredim don't always get along. And often they've never ever met someone of the opposite. So what Kesher Yehudi does is they set up these learning partners, so these Haredim come into the Mechinot. It's done for many years, and it is one of the most successful kiruv programs and they don't call it kiruv. I'm sorry, I take that back. They don't call it kiruv. It's not kiruv. They're really not trying. They just bring them together, and incredible things happen. And as you can imagine, secular Israelis are so enamored by their partners who they had all these negative things that they thought of. And they're seeing, they go to get advice from them, they see, they have 11 children, they live in a 2-bedroom apartment, they're the happiest people that they've ever met. And then the Haredim meet these secular Israelis and see, wow, they're not so different than my own children, or whatever. So comes October 7th, and the woman who started Kesher Yehudi, Tzili Schneider, went to Hostage Square, and she befriended one of the hostages' moms. And over time, she invited her to some different things and said, you've gone to the Pope, you've gone to the President of the United States, and it's not working. Why don't you come spend Shabbat with us? And she got a bunch of the hostage families to come for Shabbos. And I wasn't there the first one, it was the Waldorf, and they had 35 hostage families at that one, and it was written about in Mishpacha magazine by Jonathan Rosenblum. The stories were incredible, and it happened to be so successful they did a second one, because word got out. And so they did a second Shabbos, and it happened to be the Shabbos that me and my friends were in Israel, and I got to go. And so I'd like to tell you a couple stories from that Shabbos. The first one, this woman gets up Friday night at dinner, and her name, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but her son is Omri Shem Tov. You might have heard stories about in a minute. She gets up and says that she like there's out of the 36 Hajj families that were there was one that was from, and the rest were secular. Spending Shabbos, it was the first Shabbos, every one of them said it was the first Shabbos they ever spent in their lives. Keeping a full Shabbat. And so she gets up and says, even though we don't keep Shabbat, we make Kiddush. There was Sorati, they make Kiddush every Friday night, and that was Omri's mitzvah. He loved making kiddush. And Omri was taken hostage. They were at the music festival. He with his two friends, Maya and Itai, I believe the last name is Regan. And Itai was released with Maya as part of the hostage exchange. And I actually, 3 days after I heard the story, I bumped into Maya in Tel Shomer Hospital, and she confirmed the story. So Itai came out and told her that they found a bottle of grape juice somewhere at some point, and Omri was so excited, and he said, "We're going to save it." And every single Friday, they opened it and took one capful, and he took toilet paper and put toilet paper on his head and made kiddush on this cupful of grape juice. And hamotzi on these pretzel things they found. And that's what they did every Friday night. And he said also, Itai's telling Omri's mom, also, he's now completely Shomer Shabbat. And his mother was stunned by this. And she went on to say that Itai said that when they got moved, first they were in a house, but then they got moved underground to the tunnels, that it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And they gave them these little teeny flashlights to use so they could go to the bathroom. And when Omri got this flashlight, he was so excited because he said, now I can really keep Shabbat because I won't use the flashlight on Shabbos. And I told that story when I came back. I bumped into Rabbi Jacobson and I told him that story, and he called me later that night and said, it's a really incredible story. I'd like to use that story. Can you confirm some of the details? So I called Kesher Yudit to confirm to make sure all my details were correct. And she said, not only are you correct on the details, Jonathan, but I'm happy to report you now his whole family is Shomer Shabbat. And so I connected, after that story, one of our organizations, Project Inspire. So I told Project Inspire about them, and they ended up interviewing them, and they did a whole movie on Tisha B'Av about one of the stories in Tisha B'Av was this story. So if you see it, or I recommend go looking for the Project Inspire video from this past Tisha B'Av. It'll tell the story. So later that night, it's Friday night, after the meal, we get ushered into another room, and there's this rabbi, I believe his name is Rabbi Goldwasser. I never heard of him before, and he spoke in Hebrew. My Ivrit is not amazing, and but I was able to make out most of what he was saying. And what was incredible is that he had all these families who by the way, just to give a little frame of reference, you can imagine what I'm going to say is true. I've been to Shiva homes of people who have lost children. It was kind of like that, right? These people were like the Walking Dead. Like, I never saw anything like it in my life. The pain and suffering that these people were living, like just moment to moment. I remember there was one husband or wife, like throughout the Shabbos, I watched them like one was like supporting the other, and then later like she was supporting him. It was like they had to take turns just so they could function. And this rabbi's talking, and he's hysterical. He has them like in stitches. And it was just so heartwarming just to watch them laugh, to be distracted for like moments was just incredible. And he told a story about a Sefer Torah that had been rescued from Auschwitz, I think Auschwitz, one of the camps, I don't know exactly which one. And that this Sefer Torah had been smuggled into the camps by someone who wrapped the Torah around their body and got it into the camps. And then at some point they were afraid of it getting caught, so they had to literally slice it up into parts. And the Torah had been through a lot. The Torah was stained with blood, stained with other things, dirty, but they actually pieced this Torah back together. And he had the Torah there with him that night. And he said, I know you all didn't have a Simchas Torah and didn't dance, so let's do a hakafa now. And we started dancing. And it was one of the most powerful scenes I ever saw in my life. These Jews getting up and dancing and crying and clutching the Torah one by one. It was otherworldly. The next morning, like I said, we sat with Dalit and Moshe and their daughter and son-in-law at the meals. And one of their friends came up to them. His father was a hostage, and it was like it was an intimate conversation. He was saying to them, like how when he's at Hempstead Square, I think the minhag is every Saturday night, all the hostage families go to Hempstead Square and they sit there and he says, I hate it. He says, because when I go to Hempstead Square, I feel like a zoo animal. Those are his words. I feel like a zoo animal. He's like, everyone looks at me and it's like, oh, you boy, and like pities me, and I hate it. And he's going on, and they're commiserating with him. And I couldn't help but say, because this is Shabbos morning on Thursday night. I literally got off the plane. The first stop we went to was Hempstead Square. And I said to him, we just came off the plane and we went there. And you could see it. You could see who are the hostages families, because they all wear a t-shirt or a sweatshirt with you've all seen, with their kid on it. And so we saw at Hempstead Square, we saw people, and it's like, what do you say? Like, I didn't know what to say. And I told them, I said, I don't know what to tell you. I understand how you feel, but I just from the other side, I want you to know that we have no words. We just don't know what to say. And he looked at me and he said, just give a hug. Just give a hug. And he got up and he walked around the table and he gave me the biggest hug. And so that was a good lesson for me. Sometimes you're at a shiva house, you know what to say, same kind of thing, which is powerful. Shabbos lunch, different times throughout Shabbos, people are getting more comfortable, sometimes they're getting up and talking. And this gentleman gets up, and I had heard about him because he was the only one of the 36 families there that his wife and his daughter had been released. And he came anyway. And he said, as long as, he's telling them, you guys are my mishpacha. As long as my mishpacha is still a hostage, I'm with you. And he said, he was wearing a Superman t-shirt. Shabbos morning, he was wearing a Superman t-shirt. He had many piercings in his ears. He had a cap on. And he gets up, and he literally told an amazing Dvar Torah about the Mishkan. He's going, I don't know. I was just stunned. Like, I is more Yiddishkeit than most people I went to, Jewish day schools with. And he says that when his wife and daughter were taken, that he did, of course, everything like they do, like everything. He said, someone said, go to Bnei Brak and get blessings from rabbis. He says, I went to Bnei Brak and I went to every rabbi to get blessings from. And he said, basically, you need to do your hishtadlus. Don't give up. You have to keep working. And he just got the whole place riled up, and it was incredible. And then happens to be, we went to, they did like a little tour to walk. We were at the David Citadel, and we walked to the Kotel. And I found myself, I just happened to be right next to him at the Kotel a couple hours after he gives that speech. So I said to him, how are your daughter and wife doing psychologically? That's what I said. I don't know, just came out of my mouth. And he said, they're actually doing great. They have amazing perspective. And on the way back from the Kotel, back to the David Citadel for Shal Shodis, I was walking with Moshe. Moshe is Idan, who was, pronounced dead this morning, is Moshe's stepfather. So Moshe, really interesting guy. He spent 25 years in the Israeli Navy, and he was a really fun guy to hang around with, and he was kind of also my translator. He was able to really, if the Hebrew was too fast, he would tell me what's going on. And so I was walking, just me, it was myself, my best friend Shlomo, and Moshe, and we're walking. The Mamil, I remember so distinctly walking through the Mamilla Mall as we're walking to the Kotel. And on the way home, this conversation was a long conversation. And we said, Moshe, you have a very unique perspective because Idan's not your son, yet you're part of the hostage families because of Dalit. So I'm just curious, I just very open-ended question. I said, what do you think of everything? And he said, I'm going to tell you the truth. And he said, he said, the 1,200 Kedoshim that died on October 7th, and particularly the Nova Festival, the almost 400, just about 400 were murdered at the Nova Festival. He said, I think that their neshamot are more holy than the greatest tzaddik living today. He said, it's not talked about enough, but I truly believe, and I've talked about this with other people who concurred. He said, I truly believe that if Hamas didn't get so distracted by these thousands of people at the Nova Festival chasing these young, beautiful people all over the place and seeing just, is that, the plans were to go much further. If you think about it, there was almost 5,000, I think the number I heard is almost 5,000 terrorists crossed into Israeli territory, and only 1,200 people died. Think about that. They had automatic weapons and all these other things, and they were trying to kill people. They killed less than one per 3 people who crossed the border. If you think about that. What a nace. And he said, I think the Nova Festival saved 200,000 Israelis. Then he said, I think what happened with the Gilad Shalit exchange was the greatest travesty in the state of Israel. And obviously we know that Sinwar was one of, I think, the 1,100 people that were traded for Gilad Shalit. And he said, even though I love Idan, I think it would be a horrific mistake to trade, 1 for 5 maybe, but not 1 for hundreds or whatever. And that was really fascinating to hear the perspective of someone on the inside like that. And literally not 5 minutes later, we finished the conversation, we walk into Davidsonville, we go down the stairs, and Jonathan and Rachel Goldberg-Poland are there, who did not spend Shabbos with us, but came, they were invited, and they lived close by, so they came to talk, and my friend, Rav E.T.L. Goldvift, who also been passed with us, was there, and they were going to speak to Aish HaTorah. Mexico was on a mission, and so Rav E.T.L. introduced me to Jonathan and Rachel, and I got to tell them about daily giving. And I walked upstairs with them to the 3rd floor, and I got to hear, not 5 minutes after hearing one perspective of some of the family of a hostage, I got to hear Rachel Goldberg-Poland say the exact opposite. And say, there are 19 women still in captivity, all assumed to be pregnant. We have to do whatever it takes to free them. I know the price is going to be high, but we have no choice. We have to do it. And the dichotomy of hearing these two stories live, 5 minutes apart, was so striking because I actually really feel like they were both right. Right? I don't know, that's how I feel like, for a mother, to feel that way about her children, yet also understand the high price. One more story from the weekend. Right after that, Shal Shudas, one of the women spoke. On Friday night, I remember sitting next to this guy in ripped jeans, who did not know. I had to show him every place of the sitter. I mean, nothing from nothing. He was a garbage man in Bnei Brak. And he told me that both his brother-in-laws, his wife was there and his mother-in-law was there. And both his brother-in-laws, the Sharabis, were taken hostage. I'm sorry, yes, they're both taken hostage. One of the Sharabis, his wife and 2 kids were murdered on October 7th, that he was taken hostage. And the other brother, his wife and kids had escaped. Yossi Sharabi was killed in captivity around day 100. And Eli Sharabi is still hopefully alive today. And it was his mother-in-law that said this. His mother-in-law was a Dati woman, and she said something along the lines of, Hashem gave me my 2 children, and they were a deposit to me. And one was a deposit for X amount of years, I don't know how old Yossi was, and Hashem decided it was time to take his deposits back. And I hope that I could still be Eli's mother, but if Hashem decides that the deposit is time to come back and it's due, then I respect what Hashem wants. How people get this strength, I don't know. But Klal Yisrael. One of the amazing things of what of running an organization like this is I literally get a Mika Amka Yisrael moment once a week. Once a week, there's just something I get privileged to see that is extraordinary. So I will tell you that trip in March, what we did, we went back and forth and we visited all the tzedakahs. We had these incredible tours of some of the greatest organizations in the world. We got to see Migdal Or with Rabbi David Grossman, and United Hatzalah with Alan Beer, and we donated our fourth vehicle, United Hatzalah, and it says on the door from 18,000, they didn't give us from around the world, but at that time it was 18,000. And we donated a $120,000 home hospital van to Yad Sarah. And we donated, about a month after we got back, we donated a full ambulance to Magen David Adom. And this trip was incredible. And we said to ourselves the whole time, we're literally every day on this trip, we're like, wow. Like, we couldn't decide. Every day was like, this was the best day. The next day was like, this was the best day. So we thought we should do a daily giving tzedakah mission and make it available for more people. So we actually announced it today. We're doing a daily giving tzedakah mission. If any of you are interested in coming, Rabbi Galler can give you my information, or you can contact us at hello@dailygiving.org. And we're going to go November 18th to 21st, 4 days. We're going to do kind of a very similar trip. We're going to barbecue for soldiers at the Air Force Base. We're going to tour some very special things. It's going to be a really, really special way. If you haven't gone yet since October 7th, I urge you to go, whether you go on our mission or something else. It is the Achdus, at least the last time I was there, was palpable. And it's never been a better time to go, whether you, like I said, go this mission or another mission. There's something in the air and people say otherwise. Oh, that the people are already fighting and doing this. It's different. Maybe that's so, but there's still like a feeling of Achdus that's palatable. So I'd like to end with two quick stories. These are daily giving stories. One I'm going to tell tonight for the first time. Just happened on Friday, but I think it's a story that might become a regular, and one that I've told many times. So I apologize if you've heard it. I'll start with that one. But one day, a gentleman signed up for daily giving for $1 a day, and then a minute later signed up again, and then a third time, and then a fourth time, and a fifth time with 5 different email addresses in 5 minutes. And I called him up and I thanked him and I asked him, "Why did you sign up 5 different times?" And he said, "I wanted my children, for clinic purposes, to learn about giving tzedakah." I said, "That is incredible. How old are your children?" And he said, 1, 2, and 4. And I said, "What that is?" And he said, "I already reserved their Gmail addresses. And now, in 8 or 9, 10 years, when I give them their passwords and they open their email addresses for the first time, they're going to see thousands of emails, but only one email, but the same email repeated thousands of times. Thank you for your donation." And they're going to know they've been giving their whole lives. Second story, this is the one that just happened on Friday. There's a gentleman who's been a daily giver for a while. I don't know him personally, but I've spoken to him before. And he signed up for $17 a day. There many people give $18 a day, but 17 confused me. So I called him up right away. I said, "Brian, what's the deal with 17? And he said, "I calculated every single person who's died since October 7th. Every person who died on October 7th, every soldier who's died since October 7th, every person who's been killed in a terrorist attack since October 7th. And I'm going to give a penny a day for every single one of them. And I hope to never have to adjust that number, but if I have to, I'll change it on a monthly basis." So, again, I urge you to look at this video of Rabbi Alon Anava. I will tell you that it was so inspiring. I like, as I watched it again, I'm like, no wonder I got inspired to start daily giving from this video. And I had the distinct success of also becoming close to Rabbi Zechariah Wallerstein's Zatzal before he passed away. He was a big proponent of daily giving, and he used to always, it would make me so happy. He was like, "John, this is crazy. How are there only 10,000 people doing this?" And that's how I feel, because there are people I spoke to in the room before, Simi, who was daily givers, but like, we don't understand. It's like the biggest no-brainer you've ever seen in the world. Like, It's $1 a day. You get a mitzvah every single day for $1. What could you get for $1? But you get a mitzvah for $1, and you get to do it with your brothers and sisters. And I think I actually deeply believe there's a yetzer hara when it comes to tzedakah. Like Rabbi Galler said, we all give, but also it's hard for some of us. There are actually a small amount of people I've learned as I've done this that actually tzedakah is very, very, very easy for them. I'm not one of those people. And it's hard. There's a million reasons why not. Because why? Because we all give in a million different places. In fact, you probably support half the tzedakahs we give to. But this isn't about the actual tzedakah to me. Maybe it is for some people. But to me, it's the opposite. And I'm telling you, the feeling you get by giving $1 every day together is something you will really, really want to be a part of. So, just one correction for Rabbi Galler. It's dailygiving.org, not .com, dailygiving.org. Everyone loves the idea. They think they're going to do it, but if you don't do it right away, 1% do it later. So I urge you, hopefully Rabbi Galler maybe send an email reminder or WhatsApp and take the time, because we don't know what mitzvah is going to tip the scale. And I wish you all Gemar Chasim Tova. It should be a good year for you, your families, a year of good health, success, parnasa, all good things for your families. It should be a much better year for Klal Yisrael. Thank you very much.